The alarm started screaming at 300 hours station time, was eating instant noodles in the engineering bay when the lights turned red. He dropped his cup and ran to the main console. The numbers on the screen made his stomach drop. The gravitational stabilizers were failing, all of them. "This is bad," said to himself. He pressed the communication button. "Commander Park, we have a problem." Park's voice came through tired but alert. "How bad?" "Station's going to fall into the neutron star. Maybe 6 hours if we're lucky." There was silence for 3 seconds. Then said, "I'm on my way. Sound the alarm." The alarm changed pitch. Now it was the evacuation warning. Heard running footsteps in the corridor outside. The other species on the station knew what that sound meant. Time to leave. Arrived first in the engineering bay. The scientist's antennae were flat against its head, which meant fear. Its 6 legs clicked rapidly on the metal floor. "The stabilizers?" asked in its buzzing voice. "All 4 failed during the solar flare," explained. "The magnetic burst was too strong." Moved to another console and started calculating. Its claws moved so fast they blurred. After a minute, it turned back to, "We need replacement parts. The nearest supply ship is 8 hours away." "We have 6 hours," said. "Then we evacuate. There is no other option." His voice was final. Entered next. The massive reptilian security officer had to duck through the doorway. His scales were the dark green color that meant he was calm, but his hand rested on his weapon out of habit. "The evacuation pods are ready," said. "We can fit everyone on 3 ships." Arrived pulling on her uniform jacket. Her short black hair was messy from sleep, but her eyes were sharp. "Show me the damage." Brought up the schematic on the main screen. The stabilizers were marked in red. The solar flare overloaded them. They burned out completely. "Can we fix them?" asked. Made a clicking sound that was the version of a laugh. "Fix them? Commander, they are melted. We would need to replace all 4 units. That requires parts we do not have." Crossed her arms. "There has to be something we can do." "There is not," said firmly. "I have checked all options. We must evacuate." Stared at the schematic. He looked at the damaged stabilizers. Then he looked at another system on the screen. The waste recycling system. It used magnetic fields to process trash. Strong magnetic fields. His eyes got wider. "Wait," said slowly. "The recycling system uses magnetic coils, right?" Santini stood up straight. That meant alarm. "No, human, whatever you are thinking, no. I'm just saying those coils generate a magnetic field, a pretty strong one." Took a step back. He had been working with humans for 2 years. He knew what came next. "The waste system is not designed for gravitational stabilization," said quickly. "The field strength is wrong. The polarity is wrong. The positioning is wrong. It would never work." "But what if we adjusted it?" Was getting excited now. "We could reroute the power from the secondary reactor, increase the field strength by maybe 30%. Then if we reverse the polarity in—" "Absolutely not." His voice went up an octave. "That system was never meant for this. You would be improvising with critical station systems based on a theory you created 30 seconds ago." Grinned. "Yeah, but watch this." "No," and shouted at the same time. Held up her hand. "Everyone calm down, explain it properly." Pulled up the waste system on screen. "Look, the magnetic coils are already here. We have 4 of them, 1 in each quadrant, same as the stabilizers. They're weaker, but we can boost them. The hard part is adjusting the frequency to match the gravitational field of the neutron star." "The hard part?" Antennae were shaking. "Human, every part of this is hard. You are describing a complete redesign of a system while the station falls into a star. This is insane." "Insane is dying when we have a chance," said quietly. Scales turned yellow, which meant stress. "Commander Park, I must respectfully disagree. I have seen 17 human-created solutions in my career. 9 worked. 8 caused disasters. This is gambling with all our lives. We're already dying, pointed out. Idea gives us a chance. A very small chance, said, and a very large chance of making everything worse. Was already moving to the toolkit. I can do this, I just need 2 hours. We should evacuate, insisted. It is the logical choice. Looked at the screen showing the neutron star. It was beautiful and deadly, spinning and pulling everything toward it. Then she looked at who was pulling out tools with confidence. Prepare the evacuation ships but keep everyone on the station, ordered. Help with the calculations. I know you don't agree, but I need your expertise to give him the best chance. His whole body sagged. You are all insane. The entire human species is insane. Probably, agreed, but we're your best option right now. Was already opening the access panel to the waste system. I'll need someone to reroute the power conduits, and someone to monitor the gravitational readings while I adjust the field. Made a deep rumbling sound that was a sigh. I will help, but only because staying is safer than arguing with humans. He tapped his communication device. This is security officer. All non-essential personnel remain on station but stay near evacuation pods. We are attempting a human solution. Over the next 2 hours, worked like his life depended on it, which it did. He crawled through access tunnels, rewired power systems, and made adjustments to machinery that was never meant to do what he was asking. Provided calculations, though it complained the entire time. This is a 5% chance of success at best, the muttered. Better than 0, said from inside a tunnel. Monitored the station's position. They were getting closer to the neutron star. The gravity was getting stronger. 4 hours left, she announced. Almost done, called back. Helped lift heavy equipment that needed to move. Despite his fear, the big reptilian worked efficiently. If we survive this, I am requesting a transfer to a station with no humans, he grumbled. You say that every time, replied with a small smile. Finally emerged from the access tunnel. His uniform was covered in grease and his face was sweaty. Ready, I think. You think, Santeni went completely flat. I mean I'm ready, corrected. He went to the control console, activating the modified waste system in 3, 2, 1. He pressed the button. For a moment nothing happened. Then the station shuddered. The lights flickered. Every screen showed wild fluctuations in the magnetic field. It's not working, shouted. Give it a second, said, his fingers flying over the controls, making tiny adjustments. The shuddering got worse. Then suddenly it stopped. The numbers on the screen began to stabilize. Check the gravitational sensors. The descent is slowing. It's actually working. Stared at the screen in disbelief. This should not be possible. But it was working. The modified waste system was generating just enough magnetic field to counteract the pull of the neutron star. The station wasn't falling anymore. Then noticed something else. We have a new problem. What now? Asked, his scales turning bright yellow. The station is rotating, pretty fast actually. Sure enough, everyone could feel it now. A slight pull to one side. The station was spinning, slowly getting faster. Put its head in its claws. Of course it is. Of course the human solution creates a new problem. Started laughing. She couldn't help it. They weren't falling into the star anymore, but now they were spinning in space. Well, she said, at least we're alive to complain about it. While worked on fixing the rotation problem, sat in the security office with 3 younger aliens. They were cadets, new to working with humans. They watched the main screen showing crawling through another access tunnel. Why do we allow this? Asked a young named Prill. He just makes problems worse. Scales shifted to a thoughtful blue color. Let me tell you about humans. You need to understand what we're dealing with. He pulled up a file on his console. This is the Galactic database of human incidents. It has 847 entries. Every single one started with a human saying something like, "Watch this," or "I have an idea," or "It'll be fine." The young aliens leaned closer to look. The list was very long. Entry 312 read, Human Jinn Freighter Captain. His ship's warp core started to melt. The nearest repair station was 6 days away. He would die in 3 hours. What did he do? Asked a young reptilian cadet. He used duct tape and plasma coils to create a temporary cooling system. Duct tape. Do you know what that is? It's sticky fabric that humans use to fix everything. He held together a warp core with sticky fabric. The cadets looked shocked. Did he die? Prill asked. No, he made it to the station. The repair crew said his solution shouldn't have worked. The physics were all wrong, but it worked anyway because he didn't know it was impossible. Scales turned dark green, showing respect despite himself. He pulled up another entry. Entry 503, Human Song. She was in a racing competition. Professional pilots from 20 different species. There was an asteroid field in the course. She went around it, the young reptilian guessed. No, she went through it, through the largest asteroid. She flew her ship into a cave system inside the asteroid because it was technically shorter than going around. The cadets were silent. She won the race, continued. The other pilots protested. They said it was cheating. The judges checked the rules. Nowhere did it say you couldn't fly through an asteroid, so she won. Now that rule exists because of her. Prill's antennae twitched nervously. These stories are supposed to make us feel better about humans' plan. No, said honestly. These stories are to help you understand. Humans see the universe differently than we do. He pulled up one more file. Entry 620, Human Wu Han. He was challenged to a traditional warrior's duel by a fighter. They are the best warriors in the galaxy. They have 4 arms, natural armor, and they've been training for combat since they could walk. The human lost, the young reptilian asked. The human won. The rules said the duel was to first blood, so Human Wu intentionally cut his own hand at the start of the match. His blood touched the ground first. By the exact words of the rules, he won. The cadets looked at each other in confusion. The warrior was so angry he broke 3 chairs, said. But by their own sacred laws, Human Wu had won. They had to accept it. The now include very specific language about self-inflicted wounds in their duel challenges. On the screen was attaching something to the outside of the station. None of them could figure out what it was. The Galactic Council has a classification system for threats, explained. Category 1 is natural disasters like solar flares or asteroid impacts. Category 2 is hostile entities like space pirates or aggressive species. Category 3 is humans having ideas. That's a real category, Prill asked in disbelief. Yes, because statistically, humans cause as much chaos as natural disasters. The difference is that natural disasters don't mean well. The young reptilian cadet looked worried. Should we stop human? Thought about it. His scales shifted through several colors. Here is the problem. 73% of all impossible solutions in the galaxy were created by humans. When we face a problem that has no answer, humans find an answer anyway. But 68% of preventable disasters involve humans, Prill pointed out. Yes, agreed. Now here is the interesting part. When I checked the files, I found that those are often the same incidents. The same human solution that saves everyone also creates a new disaster. Then another human fixes that disaster and creates a different problem. It's an endless cycle. On the screen was now welding something. Sparks flew in the darkness of space. So we just accept the chaos? The young reptilian asked. We accept that humans are necessary, corrected. 5 years ago, there was a colony ship with 3,000 passengers. It hit an unknown particle field. The engines died. Life support was failing. They had 8 hours of air left. The cadets listened carefully. Every engineer on the ship said there was no solution. The engines needed parts that didn't exist on the ship. It was impossible. Then a human passenger, I don't remember her name, went into the engine room. She used the food synthesizer to create a substitute part. Food synthesizer. She made an engine component out of a machine meant to make soup. Did it work? Prill asked. The ship made it to the nearest station. The part melted after 9 hours, but everyone survived. The head engineer later said that by every law of physics he understood, it shouldn't have worked. But the human didn't care about what was impossible. She only cared about what was necessary. Pulled up another screen showing statistical data. After the council started tracking human incidents, they found something interesting. In situations where survival seemed impossible, humans had a 42% success rate. Every other known species had less than 5%. Why? The young reptilian asked. Because other species know when to give up. Humans don't. They have a neurological difference. Their brains don't properly calculate danger. When we see a problem and think this will kill me, humans think this is interesting. The station shuddered again, was doing something else now. So we're just supposed to trust them. Prill's antennae were flat with worry. No, said firmly. We're supposed to prepare for chaos and hope they succeed. That's the best we can do. He pulled up a communication log. Last year, I talked to a security officer from the merchant station Telos 9. She told me about a human doctor named. There was a plague outbreak, 60% fatality rate, no known cure. The human doctor locked herself in a lab for 4 days. She found a cure, the young reptilian asked. She created a cure using 3 medications that should never be mixed together. The medical database specifically warned against combining them. It said mixing them would create a deadly toxin. But she mixed them anyway in specific ratios at specific temperatures. It worked. She saved 8,000 lives. When asked why she ignored the warnings, she said the warning assumed normal conditions. These weren't normal conditions. The station stopped shuddering. On the screen gave a thumbs up to the camera. That's another thing about humans, said. They ignore rules they find inconvenient. Not because they're rebellious, but because they genuinely don't understand why the rule matters more than the outcome. His voice came over the communication system. The rotation is slowing. Humans' adjustment is working. I don't understand how, but it's working. Scales turned a satisfied green. And that is the human condition in summary. Solutions that work for reasons nobody understands. The young reptilian looked at the screen thoughtfully. So when humans said, "Watch this," you knew he would try something crazy. I knew he would try something impossible, corrected. Crazy implies it won't work. With humans, it usually works. That's what makes it terrifying. Prill watched climbing back into the station through an airlock. I don't understand them at all. None of us do, admitted. I've worked with humans for 2 years. I've seen them do amazing things and stupid things, sometimes at the same time. I've seen them save lives and create disasters. I've seen them solve problems that had no solution and create problems that shouldn't exist. Do you trust them? The young reptilian asked. Thought carefully before answering. I trust that they will always try. I trust that they won't give up. I trust that they will find a way, even if that way makes no sense. Do I trust them to follow safety protocols? No. Do I trust them to be predictable? Never. But do I trust them to survive the impossible? Yes. Always yes. On the screen emerged from the airlock. He was smiling. The rotation had stopped. The station was stable. Of course, added, now we have a debris field from his adjustments. That will be the next problem to solve. Will another human fix it? Prill asked. Probably, sighed. And they'll create something else we'll have to fix. That's just how it works with humans. The young cadets watched walk through the corridor. He looked tired but happy. I want to transfer to a different station. Prill said quietly. You'll get used to it, replied. Or you'll go insane. Both are common among aliens who work with humans. His scales shifted to an amused yellow. Despite everything, despite the fear and the chaos and the impossibility of it all, they were alive. The station was safe. And it was all because a human said, "Watch this," and did something that shouldn't have worked. That was the human way. The debris field was getting worse. Pieces of metal from repairs were floating in orbit around the station. Small ships were reporting near misses. The traffic control center had declared the area a navigation hazard. Stood in the command center watching the tracking screen. Red dots showed hundreds of debris pieces. Some were as small as bolts. Others were chunks of hull plating that had welded into makeshift thrusters. Emergency shuttle approaching, the communications officer announced. 2 human passengers requesting docking permission. Granted, said. Send them to the command center when they dock. 20 minutes later, Sora Lee walked into the command center. She was a physicist, tall and thin with glasses that kept sliding down her nose. Behind her came, shorter and muscular, wearing a combat engineer's uniform covered in tool pouches. Commander Park, Sora said, pushing her glasses up. We got the emergency call. What's the situation? Pointed at the screen. Saved the station from falling into the neutron star. Now we have a debris problem. It's blocking the shipping lanes. Sora studied the screen for 30 seconds. Then she smiled. I've got an idea. Every alien in the command center stopped what they were doing. Who was at another console made a high-pitched clicking sound of pure fear. No, said firmly. No more ideas, no more human ideas. We will wait for the cleanup crew. The cleanup crew is 4 days away, pointed out. Ships need to use this lane now. Sora pulled out a tablet and started calculating. We can clear the debris ourselves. We just need to use controlled atmosphere venting to push the larger pieces out of the shipping lane. Was already looking at the station's hull plans on a nearby screen. We'd need to open vents on the outer hull, time the releases to create thrust vectors that move the debris. Entered the command center at that moment. When he saw the 2 new humans, his scales immediately turned yellow. No, I heard I've got an idea. The answer is no. We haven't even explained the full plan yet, Sora protested. You don't need to, I know how this works, tapped his communication device. This is security officer, alert status elevated. Humans are having ideas. All personnel prepare for possible chaos. That's not necessary, said, but she was grinning. She knew was probably right. Moved to stand beside. Together they formed a wall between the humans and the rest of the command center. We should contact the Galactic Council. This situation requires proper authorization. For venting atmosphere, asked, that's a standard operation. Not when humans are doing it to move debris in ways that were never intended by the station designers, shot back. Sora pulled up a simulation on the main screen. Look, the math works. We vent atmosphere here, here, and here. The force pushes these 3 large debris pieces. They collide with the smaller debris in a controlled manner. Everything gets pushed into a safe orbit that doesn't block shipping. The simulation played out on screen. It looked simple, too simple. What could go wrong? Asked suspiciously. Well, said thoughtfully, if we miscalculate the timing by even 2 seconds, the debris could hit the station instead of missing it. Or we could create a debris cloud instead of clearing one. Or the atmosphere loss could destabilize our life support. And you want to try this anyway. The antennae were shaking. The alternative is waiting 4 days with blocked shipping lanes, Sora pointed out. Ships are already rerouting. That costs time and money. Considered it. How long would your plan take? 3 hours, said. I need to set up the venting system and weld some directional plates to focus the atmosphere release. She means she's going to turn parts of the station into rocket thrusters, translated, using the air we breathe, while we are breathing it. We'll only vent sections that are currently empty, assured them. At that moment, a new voice came over the communications system. It was calm and carried authority. This is Council representative of the Galactic Council. I am in communication range and have been monitoring the situation. Everyone looked up. Was an avian species known for being careful and diplomatic. Representative said formally, "We were about to contact you." "I'm sure you were," said dryly. "I heard the phrase 'I've got an idea' from a human. Protocol requires I intervene immediately." Sora frowned. "There's a protocol for that." "Yes, established 3 years ago after the incident at Research Station 12. A human said, 'I've got an idea,' and created a temporary black hole. A small one, but still." "That was one time," Sora muttered. "It was enough," replied. "I am transmitting an official council order. You are not to implement any improvised solutions without full council approval. This includes venting atmosphere to move debris." The order appeared on screen, official and binding. Read it quickly. "Representative, with respect, this will take days to approve. We need to clear the shipping lanes now." "Then you will wait for the proper cleanup crew," said firmly. Sora and looked at each other. Then they looked at. The commander was reading the order carefully, looking for any loopholes. "The order says we can't implement improvised solutions," said slowly. "Does it count as improvised if we follow standard safety protocols?" Commander Park's voice held a warning. "I know what you're thinking, don't." But was already moving toward the door. "Standard hull maintenance requires checking the integrity of vent systems. I should probably do that now. And I should verify the atmospheric pressure in the empty sections," Sora added, following her. "Just routine checks." "Stop," shouted. "I am ordering you to." The connection cut off. Looked at the communications officer, a young alien who quickly looked away. "Did we just lose signal?" asked innocently. "Yes, Commander," the officer said. "The debris must be interfering." Closed his eyes. "You're going to let them do it anyway." "I'm going to let them do routine maintenance," corrected. "If that routine maintenance happens to move some debris, well, that's just a fortunate coincidence." Made a sound like air escaping from a balloon. "This is exactly why the Council created that protocol. Humans don't follow orders. You find ways around them." "We follow the spirit of the law," said. "You torture the letter of the law until it tells you what you want to hear," shot back. Out on the hull was already suiting up for a spacewalk. Appeared from the engineering bay to help her. "Heard you need some welding done," said cheerfully. "Hull plates turned into directional thrusters," confirmed. "Should be fun." "Definitely illegal," agreed, "but fun." They worked quickly. Was good at her job. Within an hour, she had welded metal plates around 3 of the station's atmosphere vents. The plates would direct the venting air like rocket nozzles. Inside, Sora was calculating the exact timing. Every second mattered. The debris pieces were moving in predictable orbits. She needed to vent the atmosphere at precisely the right moment to create the exact force needed. "First vent ready," reported over the radio. "Stand by," Sora replied, watching her calculations. Stood beside her, watching everything. "If this goes wrong, I want it noted that I objected." "Noted," said. "Also noted that I'm staying here instead of evacuating," added. "Because leaving is more dangerous than staying with humans. My life has become very strange." 3 seconds, Sora counted down. 2, 1, venting now. The atmosphere rushed out of Section 12. The directional plates focused it into a strong thrust. On the tracking screen, a large piece of debris began to move. "It's working," said quietly. The debris piece drifted toward a cluster of smaller debris. It hit them at exactly the angle Sora had calculated. The smaller pieces scattered, moving away from the shipping lane. "Second vent in 30 seconds, Sora announced. They repeated the process twice more. Each time, the debris moved exactly as predicted. The shipping lane began to clear. Then Sora noticed something on her screen. "Wait, we have a problem." "Of course we do," said tiredly. "One of the large debris pieces is moving toward the station. It wasn't supposed to do that." Everyone looked at the tracking screen. A chunk of hull plating about 3 meters across was drifting back toward the station. It would hit in 4 minutes. "Can we vent more atmosphere to push it away?" asked. "Not enough time to position the vents," said over the radio. "I can see it from here. It's coming in fast." His voice came over the radio. "I can stop it." Everyone froze. "How?" asked, though he already knew he would regret asking. "I'll use the cargo bay's magnetic crane. Extend it out and catch the debris." "That crane isn't designed to catch moving objects," protested. "But it could work," said. "Watch this." "No," every alien in the command center shouted at once. But was already moving. On the external camera, they could see the cargo bay doors opening. The magnetic crane extended into space. "That debris is moving at 12 meters per second, Sora warned. "The crane will break." "Maybe," said, "but maybe not." The debris piece came closer, activated the magnetic crane at the last second. The magnet caught the debris piece. The crane arm bent dangerously. Metal groaned. Then it held. The debris stopped just 10 meters from the station hull. "Got it," said triumphantly. In the command center, every alien was silent, was the first to speak. "That was reckless, dangerous, and incredibly stupid." "But it worked," pointed out. "It worked," agreed, and she was smiling. Sat down heavily. "I'm definitely requesting a transfer." The communication system crackled. His voice came back. "Commander Park, I regained signal just in time to watch that on the tracking data. You deliberately ignored my order." "We performed routine maintenance," said calmly. "The debris clearing was incidental." There was a long pause, then sighed. "The shipping lane is clear." "Yes, Representative." "And the station is safe." "Yes, Representative." Another pause. "I'm going to have to file a report about this, a very long report." "Understood," said. After disconnected, looked at. "You realize you just proved every fear the Council has about humans." "Maybe," replied, "but we got the job done." The Galactic Council met in emergency session 3 days later. The chamber was a massive circular room with seats for representatives from 12 different species. In the center was a holographic display currently showing Station 9 and all the incidents that had happened there. Stood at the podium, his feathers ruffled in agitation. "In the past week, humans on Station 9 have converted a waste recycling system into gravitational stabilizers, created a debris field that blocked shipping lanes, and then cleared that debris using methods that violated 3 safety protocols." A representative from the crystalline species, whose name was difficult to pronounce, chimed in with a sound like breaking glass. "This is unacceptable. Humans are a danger to organized galactic society." "I agree," said a representative from the aquatic species. His translation device made his bubbling speech understandable. "We should limit human access to critical stations and ships." "Limit how?" asked another representative. "Supervision," the crystalline representative suggested. "No human should operate alone on any important station or vessel. They should always have oversight from a more rational species." Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Pulled up statistics on the holographic display. "According to our data, 73% of impossible solutions in the galaxy were created by humans. And 68% of preventable disasters," the aquatic representative added. "Yes," agreed. "What's interesting is these numbers represent the same incidents. Humans solve impossible problems by creating disasters, then solve those disasters by creating new problems. It's a cycle." A reptilian representative spoke up. Then we ban them from important work. Simple solution. At that moment, a new hologram appeared. It was the human ambassador. He was sitting in what appeared to be his apartment, eating noodles from a bowl. He looked completely casual. Ambassador said stiffly, "Thank you for joining us." "No problem," said around a mouthful of noodles. "Though I wish you'd scheduled this at a better time. It's dinner hour here." The representatives looked at each other. Even during an emergency session about his own species, the human was eating noodles. "We are discussing limiting human participation in critical operations," the crystalline representative said sharply. "Why?" asked simply. "Because you're dangerous," the aquatic representative replied. "Your species causes chaos." Slurped another noodle. "Sure, but who's going to fix your problems?" The chamber went quiet. "We have engineers from dozens of species," the reptilian representative said. "We don't need humans for that." Pulled up his own data on a screen behind him. 3 months ago, the mining station on Epsilon 7 had a complete power failure. Your engineers said it would take 2 weeks to fix and cost millions in credits. A human technician named Bora fixed it in 6 hours using spare parts and a creative interpretation of the power grid. That technician violated 4 safety codes, pointed out. "But the station is running," countered, "and it only cost the price of spare parts." He took another bite of noodles. "Last year, the colony ship Endeavour had a water recycling failure. 15,000 colonists would die of thirst before reaching their destination. Your experts said there was no solution with the ship's current resources." "We remember that incident," the crystalline representative said coldly. "A human doctor named Minu created a new recycling process using medical equipment and plant matter from the hydroponics bay. It shouldn't have worked. Your scientists said it was impossible, but 15,000 people are alive today because he tried anyway." Set down his bowl. "You want to limit humans? Fine. But then you own every problem we would have solved. Every impossible situation that only humans are crazy enough to attempt." "We can handle our own problems," the aquatic representative insisted. "Can you?" Pulled up more data. "In the past 5 years, how many critical situations were resolved by human intervention?" The holographic display showed a very long list. 2,417, read. "Everything from engine failures to medical emergencies to diplomatic incidents. My species is involved in solving about one impossible problem every day." "You also create problems," the reptilian representative argued. "We do," agreed easily. "But we also fix them. That's the point. We don't see problems and give up. We see problems and think that looks interesting." Another hologram appeared in the chamber. This one was a human scientist with wild gray hair and an excited expression. She was clearly in a laboratory. "Sorry I'm late," said. "I was running an experiment." "Doctor," greeted her. "You were supposed to present your research on human psychology." "Right, yes." Pulled up a brain scan on her screen. "This is a human brain when facing danger, and this is a brain facing the same danger." 2 brain scans appeared side by side. They were very different. "The brain activates its threat assessment center," explained. "It calculates risk, determines the danger is too high and triggers a retreat response. This is normal. This is how most species' brains work." She pointed to the human brain scan. "The human brain does something different. Our threat assessment center activates, yes, but then it triggers our problem-solving center. Instead of retreating, we start looking for solutions." "That sounds like a malfunction," the crystalline representative said. "It is, in a way," agreed cheerfully. "Humans have a neurological quirk. We don't properly calculate danger. Or rather, we calculate it, but then we ignore the calculation if we think we can solve the problem." She pulled up more data. "This is why humans attempt things that seem impossible. Our brains literally don't stop us. When you see a burning building and think, "I'll die if I go in there," a human thinks, "but someone inside needs help." That's suicidal, the aquatic representative said. Sometimes, admitted, but sometimes it's heroic. The difference is whether we succeed. She changed the display to show success rates. In situations where survival seems impossible, most species have a 5% success rate. Humans have a 42% success rate. How? Asked, genuinely curious. Because we try, said simply. Other species know when to give up. Humans don't. We throw ourselves at impossible problems, and sometimes, through luck or creativity or sheer stubborn refusal to quit, we succeed. Jump back in. Here's the thing you need to understand. You can't train humans to be less reckless. It's neurological. It's built into how our brains work. You can't fix it, change it, or supervise it away. Then what do you suggest? The reptilian representative asked. Accept it, said. Accept that humans are chaotic. Accept that we'll break your rules and violate your protocols. Accept that we'll create disasters while solving problems. But also accept that we're useful. We solve problems nobody else can solve. Nodded enthusiastically. In my research, I found that galactic infrastructure now depends on human innovation. 40% of your current technology includes modifications or improvements made by humans. You're already relying on us. You just don't want to admit it. The representatives looked at each other uncomfortably. It was true. Everywhere in the galaxy, human solutions had become part of daily life. A new voice spoke up. It was a representative from the elder species called the Watchers. They rarely spoke in council meetings. Perhaps the question is not whether to limit humans, but how to prepare for them. Everyone turned to look at the Watcher representative. Explain, requested. Humans are a force of nature, the Watcher said slowly. Like a storm or an earthquake, you cannot stop them, you cannot control them, but you can prepare for them. Build stronger structures. Create better safety systems. Accept the chaos and adapt to it. Smiled, I like that perspective. It's not a compliment, the Watcher replied. Storms are dangerous. But they're also necessary, countered. They bring rain, they clear the air, they change the landscape. Humans are the same. We disrupt things, yes, but sometimes disruption is needed. The council debated for another hour. Finally, they took a vote. The result was narrow but clear. They would not ban humans from critical operations. Instead, they would create new protocols, better safety systems, more preparation for human chaos. The Human Advisory Initiative announced. When facing an impossible situation, stations may request human assistance, but they must also prepare for the consequences. Fair enough, said. We'll send our best people. That's what we're afraid of, the crystalline representative muttered. After the meeting ended, and stayed on their holographic call. Do you think they understand? Asked. No, said honestly, but they're trying, that's all we can ask. We are kind of crazy, admitted. Absolutely, agreed. But we're useful crazy, that's the important part. Back on Station 9, received the news about the council's decision. She called her crew together to tell them. So we're officially recognized as chaos agents? Asked. More or less, confirmed. But we're allowed to keep causing chaos, under supervision. I can live with that, said. Scales were a resigned blue. I suppose this means you humans aren't going anywhere. We're here to stay, agreed. Made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. Then I suppose we should get used to the chaos. That's the spirit, said cheerfully. Now I've been thinking about upgrading the station's communications array. I have an idea. No, every alien shouted at once. But they were smiling when they said it. Well, the ones with faces were smiling. The others were showing the equivalent emotional state for their species. The humans had proven their value. The galaxy would just have to adapt. Because humans weren't changing anytime soon. 6 months passed. Station 9 changed in ways nobody expected. The station was now officially designated as an experimental solutions facility. When other stations faced impossible problems, they sent their data to 9. The human crew would look at the problem and usually find a solution that made perfect sense to them and no sense to anyone else. The solutions worked about 70% of the time. The other 30% created new problems that required more creative solutions. It was an endless cycle, but it was a useful cycle. More importantly, the Galactic Council created a new program, the Human Integration Academy. It was designed to teach young aliens how to work with humans without losing their minds. Was the first human instructor. He stood in front of a classroom of 20 young aliens from different species. They all looked nervous. Their personnel files said they were the best and of their species. Their expressions said they were terrified. "Good morning," said with a friendly smile. "Welcome to Introduction to Human Problem-Solving Methods. I'm instructor." A young raised a claw nervously. "Is it true that humans don't feel fear properly?" "That's not exactly right," said. "We feel fear. We just don't always listen to it. Sometimes we think fear is just our brain being overly cautious." "That seems dangerous," a reptilian student said. "It is," agreed, "but it's also useful. Today we're going to run a simulation. You'll face a problem that has no standard solution. I want to see how you approach it." He activated the holographic simulation. It showed a small ship with failing life support. The crew had 3 hours of air left. The nearest help was 4 hours away. "Your task is to keep the crew alive," instructed. "You have the ship's full inventory. Begin." The alien students immediately started working. They were organized and efficient. They checked the ship systems, calculated the air consumption rate, and searched for replacement parts. After 20 minutes, a crystalline student reported their findings. "There is no solution. The life support system needs parts we don't have. The crew must evacuate." "There are no evacuation pods," said. "They were damaged in the incident that broke the life support." The students looked at each other in confusion. "Then the crew will die," the reptilian student said sadly. "There is no way to fix this." Smiled. "Let me show you how a human would approach this." He pulled up the ship's inventory on the main screen. "What do we have? Food synthesizers, medical equipment, engine components, cleaning supplies." "None of those fix life support," the student pointed out. "Not in their normal use, no," agreed. "But what if we use them differently?" He highlighted the medical oxygen tanks. "Oxygen here, not much but some." Then he highlighted the engine's cooling system. "This uses a chemical process that produces oxygen as a byproduct. Normally, it's vented into space. What if we captured it?" The students leaned forward, interested despite themselves. "The food synthesizer breaks down organic matter into base components," continued. "What if we fed it all the plant matter on the ship? It would release oxygen during the breakdown process." "These are all inefficient processes," the crystalline student protested. "They would only produce small amounts of oxygen." "Small amounts are better than nothing," said. "Add them all together and you might have enough to last until help arrives. It's not guaranteed. It's messy and improvised, but it gives the crew a chance." An aquatic student made a bubbling sound of realization. "You chain together multiple inadequate solutions to create one adequate solution." "Exactly," said. "Humans call it throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks." "That sounds chaotic," the reptilian student said. "It is," admitted, "but chaos is better than death." He changed the simulation. "Let's try another scenario. This time I want you to think like humans. Don't ask what's the proper solution. Ask what's possible." The students worked on several more scenarios. Slowly, they started to understand. Thinking like a human meant ignoring the rules they'd been taught. It meant combining systems that weren't meant to work together. It meant accepting risk and uncertainty. It was uncomfortable, but it was also exciting. After the class ended, met with who had become the academy's director. The looked exhausted. "How are they doing?" asked. "Better than expected," said. "They're learning to think creatively. It makes them nervous, but they're learning." "Good, because we have a real situation that needs attention." Pulled up a report. A colony on the outer rim was having a reactor problem. The reactor was overheating. Standard procedure said to shut it down, but that would leave 10,000 colonists without power in the middle of winter. They would freeze. The engineering team says there's no safe way to cool the reactor without shutting it down, explained. "Where's the nearest human engineer?" asked. 3 days away. Looked at the data. His brain started working on the problem automatically. He couldn't help it. That's how human brains worked. "What about the students?" he asked. Santini shot straight up. "Absolutely not. They've had 1 day of training. But they're learning to think creatively. This could be a real-world test." "No, this is exactly the kind of chaos we're trying to manage." At that moment, alarms started blaring. Not on the academy station, but on the colony. The reactor situation had gotten worse. The engineering team was evacuating. Made a decision. He contacted the classroom. "All students report to the simulation lab immediately. We have a real emergency." When the students arrived, showed them the colony's situation. "The reactor is critical. People will die without power. Your task is to find a solution." "Us?" the young asked in shock. "We're students. We've had 1 class." "You've had 1 class in thinking like humans," corrected. "Now prove you learned something." The students looked at each other. Then, hesitantly, they started working. The crystalline student suggested using the colony's ice from the winter snow to cool the reactor. The aquatic student proposed flooding certain reactor chambers with water from the underground reserves. The reptilian student thought they could reroute power to reduce the load on the reactor. None of these solutions would work alone, but together. Combine them, encouraged. Use all 3 approaches at once. The students worked faster now. They were nervous, but they were thinking creatively. They were thinking like humans. After an hour, they had a plan. It was messy and improvised. It violated several safety protocols, but it might work. "Send it to the colony," instructed. Was watching from the doorway. The looked like it might faint. The colony's engineering team received the plan. There was a long pause. Then they started implementing it. They used snow to create a cooling system. They flooded reactor chambers that were designed to be dry. They rerouted power in ways that the manufacturer would never approve. It was chaos, it was improvised, it was human. And it worked. The reactor stabilized. The colony had power. 10,000 people were safe. In the academy lab, the students stared at their screens in shock. They had actually done it. They had solved an impossible problem using human methods. "How do you feel?" asked them. "Terrified," the student said. "Confused," the crystalline student added. "Excited," the reptilian student admitted quietly. "That's the human experience in summary," said with a smile. Terror, confusion, and excitement all at the same time. News of the students' success spread quickly. Within days, the academy had more applications than it could handle. Young aliens wanted to learn the human way of thinking. It was dangerous and chaotic, but it was also effective. Station 9 became more than just an experimental facility. It became a symbol, a place where the impossible became possible, where chaos was turned into creativity. One evening, Sora and sat in the station's observation deck. They were watching the neutron star spin, beautiful and deadly. "Did you ever think it would come to this?" Sora asked. "Teaching aliens to think like us." "Never," admitted. "I thought they'd ban us from important work." "They tried," pointed out, "but then they realized they needed us." Was working on a tablet designing something. I've been thinking about the station's communication array. I have an idea. The others all turned to look at him. What? Asked innocently. Every time you say that, something explodes, Sora said. Not every time, only like 60% of the time. That's not reassuring, laughed. But she was looking at his design anyway, because that's what humans did. They looked at impossible problems and said, watch this. From the command center, watched the 4 humans on the security camera. His scales were a peaceful green. Over the months, he had accepted the chaos. He had learned that fighting human nature was pointless, better to prepare for it and hope for the best. Joined him, antennae drooping with exhaustion from a long day at the academy. How were the students today? Asked. They solved a real emergency, said. They used human methods. It terrified me. But it worked. Yes, that's what terrifies me most. It actually worked. They watched the humans on the screen. Was now showing his design to the others. They were discussing it, suggesting modifications, making it even more chaotic. Do you think the galaxy will survive humans? Asked. I think the galaxy needs humans, replied. We've become dependent on their chaos. Without them, we'd have no solutions to impossible problems. With them, we have new impossible problems, pointed out. True, but at least we're never bored. On the communication board, a new message appeared. It was a station request for human assistance, another impossible problem that needed a human solution. Sent the message to his terminal. In the observation deck's device beeped. She read the message and smiled. We have a new project. Mining station needs help with an unstable asteroid. How unstable? Asked. Very. It's going to break apart and destroy the station unless they move it. Can they move it? Sora asked. Not with conventional methods. The 4 humans looked at each other. Then they all smiled. I've got an idea, said. And somewhere in the galaxy, a dozen alien species prepared for the chaos that would inevitably follow those words. They set up emergency protocols. They alerted safety teams. They made backup plans for the backup plans. Because that's what you did when humans had ideas. But they also waited with hope. Because more often than not, human ideas worked. They were chaotic and terrifying and violated every safety regulation ever written. But they worked. And in a galaxy full of impossible problems, having someone willing to say, watch this, and try anyway was worth all the chaos in the universe. Station 9 transmitted a response to the mining station. Human team en route. Prepare for unconventional solutions. The mining station's response came quickly. Human involvement noted. Emergency protocols activated. Standing by. It had become standard procedure across the galaxy. When humans were involved, you prepared for chaos. But you also prepared for miracles. Because with humans, you usually got both. The observation deck's lights dimmed automatically as 9 rotated. The neutron star's glow painted the room in strange colors. The 4 humans kept working on its design, already planning their next impossible solution. Outside, space was vast and dangerous and full of problems. Inside, humans were ready. Because that's what they did. They faced the impossible, said, watch this, and made it possible. The galaxy had learned to live with human chaos. More importantly, the galaxy had learned it couldn't live without it.